Their record goal scorer and captain Kamel Bouzutil, who has now played over 100 internationals. 6 changes again for Kevin Keegan, but 5 of the side in the starting 11 for all 3 of these warm-up games. Sol Campbell and Phil Neville at the back, David Beckham and Paul Scholes in midfield, and Alan Shearer up front. Shearer with a third different partner in Kevin Phillips. Nick Barmby, the latest to try to solve the problem on the left of midfield, and a wonderful week for Richard Wright, completed by his first cap.
Well, a lot of people will be expecting England to certainly wipe the floor with this Malta side, but I'm sure that Malta will want to give a good performance, and certainly they have done in the build-up over the last 12 months. In fact, they only lost 3-2 to the Republic of Ireland in September. They're going to really have to basically defend with 11 men behind the ball. A lot of experience certainly in De Bono and Buttigieg at the back, with Brincat in midfield, over 80 caps, and Karabot also approaching 100 caps. There's an enormous amount of experience, but I really do expect Ernest Barry to be certainly extremely busy here this afternoon. Looking at England, of course, opportunities for 1 or 2. It's certainly Richard Wright. It's a good opportunity for him to get experience. We've just talked about Campbell and Keown at the back. For Gary Neville and Phil Neville to get some form in those full-back positions. Scholes will be looking to make those direct runs between Shearer and Phillips. Nicky Barmby, it really is a fantastic opportunity. That is a problem area for England. Can Barmby be the one to solve problems? And of course, David Beckham on that right-hand side, we'll be looking for him to really hit terrific balls into the box for Phillips, hopefully to get the goals that he certainly blessed the Premier League with this year. And of course, Alan Shearer, who would love to go into a big tournament with goals under his belt.
England's PR has been very good here, emphasising the political nature of this visit, hoping to attract a vote in the World Cup bidding. Well, it's a contrast from the matches against Brazil and Ukraine, a contrast in the calibre of the opposition particularly. From Brazil ranked #1 to Malta rated 118th in the world. Part-time players, but with a real sense of pride in this football-crazy island. It's a playing surface that England have been very impressed with, though they did ask for some extra watering to slick up the lush grass, which by necessity in this climate has to be on the long side. Great associations, of course, in this part of the world with England. Malta, a British colony for 150 years. The island given the George Cross for the loyal service to the Crown in the Second World War. This stadium actually built on the site of the old RAF base here. And many holidaymakers able to snap up a few tickets that were remaining over the last couple of days, finding that they're in the right place at the right time to see England. Actually not quite as warm today as it has been the last couple of days. A little bit of a breeze, a few clouds around. Certainly the players will appreciate that, players of both sides, because the early kick-off, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, local time here, has surprised even the Maltese themselves. Sol Campbell looking as cool as a cucumber, though. And even the current vogue for bringing on babies has reached Malta, as you can see. That's Gilbert Ajus, who actually had a trial with Blackpool not too long ago, and has been voted the sexiest man in Malta. Over the last couple of days, Kevin Keegan has challenged that. certainly been a very popular figure here. And of course, David Beckham knows this part of the world well. For the last 7 years, he's been a holiday-maker during the English close season on the island of Malta. Players actually being introduced over the public address system individually. Richard Wright, promotion to the Premiership, followed by promotion into full international football. A week to remember. Nick Barmby's cameo role on Wednesday really caught the eye and has brought him back into the starting 11 for England after an absence of almost 4 years. And just thumbing through the records, the last 2 games in which he started, he scored 3 goals. But not enough to sustain him in the side after he scored in Moldova in September 1996. Special presentation for Silvio Vela on the occasion of his final international appearance. It's been a long wait in the line, but now it is time for the national anthems. England's 13th game under Kevin Keegan, unbeaten away, and it would be sensational if that changed here. It's something of an international catchweight contest in truth, the equivalent maybe of a non-league club at home to a Premiership team in the FA Cup. But the Maltese players do got plenty of time to work together, and they've definitely improved as a unit under their Serbian coach Josef Ilic. It's a 5th cap for Kevin Phillips, who is probably 5th choice amongst the strikers, but has a chance to play himself up the pecking order now. Kevin Keegan has been saying that the 2 performances against Brazil and Ukraine by David Beckham, his best 2 since Kevin took over the mantle of head coach. All the nominated substitutes can be used today. Malta might well involve all 22 of their players at some point during the match. Steven Gerrard is resting a sore Achilles. Tony Adams has been put back in cotton wool. and only one backup goalkeeper, Nigel Martin, so England have 8 alternatives. The England players, incidentally, were allowed some sunbathing and swimming for around 45 minutes yesterday, no more than that on medical advice. And who knows, there might be a heat wave during Euro 2000, and England could be ahead of the rest, having had some sun on their faces and some smiles back. Brian, it was very tense around Wembley on Wednesday, waiting for the announcement about who wouldn't be travelling to this party, to this match, into Euro 2000.
The nice part about a trip like this is it actually helps to build up the team spirit. I think they're away for a few days in the sunshine. They can relax a little bit, enjoy hopefully what will be a good almost practice match for them. It's a chance for them to get their set pieces right, and 1 or 2 little partnerships that Kevin will be looking to hopefully strike a note, because Euro champs now isn't too far away, and this will be a great opportunity for 1 or 2 now to shine.
England back in white today, and the referee, well, he comes from the highest echelons of that particular job, Stefano Braschi, who only 10 days ago was taking charge of the European Cup final. Northern Ireland won here 3-0 in April. Maybe that's some sort of barometer for England today. Malta kick-off. Here's Busatil, their captain, and very much leading light. Buttigieg, just over a couple of years with Brentford. And the pony-tailed De Bono, looking for Busatil. First touch for Richard Wright of Ipswich, and everyone around Portman Road hoping that that will stay the case. There was some talk of him wanting to move on if Ipswich didn't get promotion. David Sheepshanks, the chairman of Ipswich, is here, and was telling me yesterday that they do hope to tie Richard Wright to a longer-term contract. He's just got 1 more year to go on his present deal. Big money available for goalkeepers if we believe what we read about Neil Sullivan's move to Spurs. Here's Scholes. Now Beckham. Gary Neville back in the team today. It's the same England back 4 as played against Brazil. Saeed, Malta's back line and accountant by profession. 1 or 2 full-time footballers in the team, but most of the Malta players who have other occupations, some of them the tourist trade. Holiday makers very much on view in this crowd of around 12,000. As you can see on the far side, the stadium in a state of development. Flag has gone up here against Busatil. Some cries of optimism were
It wasn't far away
in Maltese voices.
It wasn't far away, actually. He looked as if he almost made the perfect run. England are pushing up very, very quickly up to the halfway line.
England feeling that the first 20 minutes very important here while the energy levels are high. No one's quite sure how sapping the heat will be. And the main theme of the last words of the team talk, to move the ball, not to over-elaborate, certainly not to come up with any showboating here, and make Malta do the chasing.
Yeah, I'm sure Kevin will want them to be absolutely ultra-professional, and you know, he'll have said before, and you know, don't take this game lightly. It is important that we get a very good performance, because we're here to be a time shot at when you think of the criticism that may well be levelled if this England team don't win comfortably.
Wise. Cut out by De Bono. England played in Malta back in 1971, but not on this ground. It wasn't constructed then. They played on a pitch with no grass at all. Concrete like baked sand. And scraped a 1-0 win. That was a competitive game and qualifiers for the European Championship of those times, the finals of '72. Buttigieg is an astute player at the back, and he read it well to the detriment of Dennis Wise. Kevin Keegan, with all the autograph signing behind him, he's been a very available figure, presenting some prizes at a local football tournament yesterday evening. The goalkeeper for Malta is Ernest Barry. Buzatil. Karabot. That's the shot. He's one of the higher Maltese goal scorers of all time, the number 8 with 8 international goals to his name.
Well, if he'd been a little bit more composed, you would have seen the run of the number 11 Arjuice to the left-hand side of the English defence. He was in acres of space, but Karabot decided to shoot. But they've certainly started quite brightly, Malta. They'll be looking to pass the ball and perhaps try and make it a very quick tempo, a tempo that England really might not relish given the heat out there.
Gary Neville. Scholes taking it on the burst. Malta appeal for handball. It's not going to be given. Phillips looking for the pieces in there, typically. Comes out to Wise, blocked by Vela. Bono trying to tidy it up here. Pressed by Philip Neville. All Scholes are slipping in there for a good angle for a cutback. Ornate touch by Beckham that didn't quite come off. Ernest Barry, the goalkeeper, works in the hotel trade here. Barmby being asked to put in a full shift here to the same level that he showed so splendidly late on against Ukraine. Beckham tied against the touchline. In fact, the flag went up rather belatedly, but up it went.
I think that highlighted a problem that England do have on the left-hand side, because when Nicky Barmby does pick the ball up, Martin, he will understandably come in on his right-hand side, and the play then will always drift towards the right with David Beckham. You're almost looking for Nicky Barmby just to try and get himself down the left-hand side and exploit any weaknesses.
Here is Barmby. He's really made a late run into the reckoning for Euro 2000. Philip Neville was just drifting behind. England not setting up from the left-hand side.
Well, I think this is a difficulty that you know, Kevin Keegan does have. Unfortunately, lost Graham so early on in the season with an injury, and then Jason Wilcox coming up to the squad being announced. He's 28, and because of that, he's had to look at other options. Philip Neville looks to me as if he's the one that perhaps will get the vote at left back, but that left-hand side is the dilemma that seems to be posed to the England manager.
Yes, make no mistake about it. Barmby, a good performance today, and he could find himself a surprise addition to the squad, but actually in the team. Here's Shearer arriving quickly, made Said scurry. Scholes. Pick out Beckham. Spiteri, who's on a recall today. It's his first cap for some 14 months. Two grey hairs in the Maltese defence, and if you look at their record, you can understand why. Sol Campbell making it a late run in to Gary Neville's throw. Comes out to Wise, but he's asked a bit here of Barmby. Wise again. Enjoy, I think, the opportunity of playing more centrally today. He was the left-sided midfield man against Brazil. He's taken his eye off the ball there. And here's Buzatil, who had 7 years in Belgium's first division and is really the player with the highest calibre for Malta. That's a fine ball by Turner. And England were stretched by the switching of the point of the attack then. Shot by Brinkup.
It's a super ball from the number 9, Turner. And actually what happens is the number 10 Brinkat finds himself at the far post, and he elects to try his luck very, very early here, and it's a slight deflection that wins him a corner, but an excellent break from Malta.
Brinkat's gone across to take the corner himself. Bounce a little bit awkward for Karabot, but he's done the necessary. Campbell. Gary Neville with Beckham ahead of him. So much interest in the Manchester United in Malta. And the home-based fans here absolutely thrilled with a number of United players in Kevin Keegan's selection. Also the sight of seeing Shearer. Well, he earned a couple of corners to good effect on Wednesday night that England scored from.
He worked incredibly hard, didn't he, on Wednesday? You and I were talking about it afterwards, and it's quite amazing that everybody else seems to get a rest but Alan Shearer when it comes to picking.
He wouldn't have it any other way, by the way.
Well, he's running out of games, clearly announcing his international retirement, and I'm sure he'd love to get a few goals here today.
Paul Campbell still looking for his first goal for England. He's in the mix there. Goes over him, way over Keown and Shearer. Collected by Barmby. Scholes, who is so important to the way Kevin Keegan wants his team to play. Wise, Scholes going to collect again. Malta retreat. Good at getting numbers behind the ball. Shearer still tussling, only gets a throw for his country this time. With the length in the arms of Gary Neville, or the power in the arms, I should say, to get the ball long. Well, no one's really looking for it at the moment. Now Keown has come forward. And it's taken Dennis Wise a bit by surprise. Phil Neville. Now Barmby. He's facing the play, facing the decision as to where to play it. He's played it to Barmby. Now Beckham. As you can see, Malta all back. Shearer.
Well, they're certainly defending in vast numbers, aren't they? And Arjuice there, the centre forward, having to chase back with David Beckham. Literally have got everybody behind the ball, but set pieces, you know, are important, and I think already England have had a couple of corners, couple of throw-ins, which have just been a little bit careless, but hopefully David Beckham now can deliver the right sort of quality.
Campbell going around the back this time. That's the target. Campbell knocks it down. Keown! But the flag is up, and it doesn't count for England.
It may well be an offside, Martin, and they were very, very quick to spot. I think it was Kevin Phillips standing right in front of the goalkeeper. But we talked about delivery of set pieces. That's a wonderful floated ball to the far post. There you can see Kevin Phillips clearly in offside position.
Here's the Buttigieg. Beckham going in to win it back. Neville. Brinkat trying to intervene for Malta. It's a good knockdown by Campbell from beyond the far post. When you think about the goals that England have scored over the past few days from a throw-in situation against Brazil and following two corners against Ukraine. Just to back up Brian Marwood's point about the value of the restarts.
I think they are, especially in games which are going to be fairly evenly balanced. You would hope that that's going to happen a lot in the Euro Championship. So set pieces, whether it's corners or throw-ins, it's an area where you can't neglect. You've got to take care.
Vela. Buzutil. Brinkat. Looking for Adjus. He in turn for Buzutil. There are three forward for Malta here. Oh, and that must have been close. England looking to hold that line again. Gilbert Adjus given offside.
And whenever Malta have had the chance to get forward, they've done with some good movement. But what worries me is just look where the two centre-halves are. Martin Keown and Sol Campbell. They really have not developed that understanding as quickly as I'm sure Kevin Keegan would have liked.
Here's Keown. Wise. Well, England have had a goal disallowed. It's still 0-0. Still inside the opening 15 minutes here in the Ta Ali Stadium. It's not actually in Valletta. The Maltese authorities asked me to point out that although all their games are given the Valletta title, it's around 5 miles away from the capital, right out in the country. It's a venue for most of the Premier League games in the Malta domestic scene. They'll play double headers here Saturday and Sunday. Very good facilities, but England aren't looking over comfortable in them at the moment.
Well, what Malta are doing, if they do get any semblance of possession in midfield, they are trying to look early for Arjuice or Busuttil. That time it was actually Turner who'd break from the left-hand side, and Gary Neville was the one that committed the foul.
Most of Malta's dead ball situations entrusted to Joe Brinkat. De Bono's gone forward, and Said as well. Now they have to try and scamper back. There's a chance for England to break quickly. Phillips was the player adjudged offside when the goal was chalked off. Keown, Scholes. In goes Campbell. Phillips. Now Scholes. Wise. Now Keown able to stride forward into space, plenty lining up for the cross. Also trying to work their own offside trap. And now challenge Martin Keown on the break.
Well, this is going to be an interesting test for England, because already in this first 15 minutes we've seen Malta defending great numbers, and also I've got to say, Martin, with very good organisation, and England just at the moment just struggling to one or two ideas to break them down.
Beckham. Phillips, almost as if his first instinct there was to think about a shot. It wasn't really on.
See how crowded though. Just look how crowded the amount of bodies that Malta are getting behind the ball, working very hard to deny England space. That's why it's so important to get the ball wide, get the ball to Beckham and Barmby.
Phillips. Beckham needing the precision of his passing, England at the moment. Gary Neville, Wise cropping up on the right. Barmby straying well away from the left. Cleared by Noel Turner, playing with a good British feel to it, and he's actually got a family history in Scotland. Foul by De Bono on Phillips, who was right in by the goalkeeper and might have actually got a touch to Keown's effort when England had their goal disallowed. Beckham. Bum for Scholes. Barmby coming in again. In the season in which he scored 10 times for Everton. Operating, I would say, for the majority of games from their left of midfield. Moves from the right as well. does have the sort of versatility in his play that is very important when you're limited to a squad of 22 players going into a prestigious tournament. You can understand Kevin Phillips' eagerness to get in here.
He's enjoyed scoring a few, but you can see Sol Campbell rises very well indeed at the far post, but that's clearly offside. Kevin Phillips, I think the actual touch from Martin Keown would have been heading to the back of the net anyway, but he was in an offside position. He was certainly standing right in front of the goalkeeper.
Barmby. Now Scholes. Well, if you look at Malta's record, particularly since Josef Ilic has taken over, they do make the opposition work hard for wins in this stadium. They've lost their last 3 games. All of them here. The last one was a week ago to South Africa, who were also here looking for that World Cup vote for their bid. England can break here with Barmby and Shearer. Said is the defender. Barmby involved again. Scholes. Now Wise. Phillips trying to stay onside in the centre. Still unmarked. Here he is, Kevin Phillips. But Spiteri got a foot in.
What a good block that was, Martin. It really was a top quality block by Spiteri at the far post.
Here's Brinkat. Farabot's gone roaring down the right. And the Sol Campbell crashing into the back of Ajus. Michael Spiteri did very well for Malta a moment or two ago to deny Kevin Phillips the opening of his international account. Scholes.
Well, certainly Spiteri was the man at the far post. Kevin Phillips had acres of space. Wonderful delivery from Dennis Wise. Phillips's first touch was good enough to set him up for a left foot volley. He thought that was going to head into the back of the net.
Prior to those 3 defeats I was just talking about for Malta, they'd been on an unbeaten run of 5 internationals. They actually won 3 in a row for only the 2nd time in their history, and this is the fellow largely responsible for that, 50-year-old Josef Ilic. Buzutil. Brinkat's gone way, way offside.
What a stupid run that is. The experience that he has and the quality that he has. Sort of what with 80-odd caps behind him, and that's absolutely crazy. You can see right across the line.
Shearer. Actually a bit of a dressing down by Kevin Keegan at half-time at Wembley on Wednesday for not holding the ball up as well as he usually does. Brinkat. Buzutil. Barmby's pass. Phillips will keep it in. Barmby wants it back again, and he's got it back again in space. Wise and Shearer in the centre. And England get a free kick, an indirect free kick for dangerous play.
Again, Nicky Barmby popping up in various positions. I'm sure while Kevin Keegan will be hoping he maintains that left wing berth, he really is causing problems by just popping up inside centre of field.
Campbell's forward again. Beckham moving Malta around. And Keown! It's a goal for Martin Keown this time, halfway through the first half. David Beckham's patience in waiting to take the free kick and just come up with a bit of deception. First and foremost when he delivered right onto the head of Keown, and he had found space in that crowded penalty area. 1-0 England. Well,
it was very clever play from David Beckham. He shimmied once, he went back and took the free kick again. But the room that's afforded to Martin Keown at the far post is incredible. I think that the fact that he's had 1 goal disallowed, he certainly wasn't going to make any mistakes this time.
This is his second goal for England, and the first one was back in 1992. So he's followed Tony Adams in making up for lost time.
I think it's what you and I were talking about. I think especially games like this, you know, you are likely to get a lot of set pieces, and it's important to show that sort of quality from set pieces, and we know David Beckham has got that.
Well, that's Vela. And England were in danger of falling into that old trap of being your most vulnerable when you just scored.
Well, again, this is worrying, I think, already. Sol Campbell and Martin Keown have been caught from little balls in behind them. It was Brinkat that played the ball to Vela. It certainly wasn't a penalty.
And here's Gary Neville, another defender, looking for goals, but he's almost set one up for Barnby. Header well kept out. Here's Spiteri, and now Buttigieg. Busutil. Turner. Clever footwork from him. And the shot's deflected. So action at both ends in a matter of seconds. Nick Barnby trying to be really deliberate with the header.
Well, they've been quite vulnerable at times, Malta, when they've had to defend from balls coming in from wide areas. Nicky Barnby will be disappointed not to convert that chance. A super ball in from Gary Neville, who'd made a great run initially.
Short corner worked by Malta between Brinkat and the Busutil. Good defending in the centre by Gary Neville. And raided so well in that last England attack. Buttigieg. Now Vela. Brinkat. Turner for Ajus. Certainly a back pass to Richard Wright. He was aware of that.
I think Malta have shown enough to suggest that certainly the back four, in particular two centre-halves, are going to have to be on their toes.
Scholes pass, chasing by Phillips. Scholes again, to pull the strings in the middle of England's midfield. Beckham. It's a bit short for Shearer. A touch by Busutil. Spiteri.
Yeah, I think that Sol Campbell and Martin Keown had already been tested. In particular, I'm very impressed with Busutil up front, the captain, been very lively. Number 7, he's drifted between the two centre-halves at times. Seems to be the one that Malta are always looking to get the ball into his feet.
Well, these matches are for ironing out wrinkles, but one has to say defensively, with both the back four and on Wednesday with the back three, there have been some wrinkles to be ironed out. England sorted out their problems well against Ukraine after that tentative start. Good passing by Malta here. Brinkat, off goes Karabot, out comes Wright, and referee's given a penalty. Richard Wright on his England debut.
He conceded a penalty in the playoff finals against Barnsley, and he was very late to come. There's contact with Karabot. Phil Neville decided that the goalkeeper was going to be in charge of this. I don't think there's enough really then to send the Maltese midfield player tumbling in the manner that he did, and I think the referee has perhaps given a soft one, but there definitely was contact. And I think that the referee now is explaining to one or two England players, in particular Dennis Wise, the reasons why he gave the penalty. But well, playoff finals, Richard Wright saved the penalty.
Malta played England twice before and not scored in either game. So this is a historic moment for Karabot, and he does score. It's 1-1. That will guarantee immortality on this island for David Karabot. But is it going to have to be taken again? Oh, is he going to take it again? Encroachment.
Well, how's his nerve? I'm not convinced actually that ball is directly on the spot, but yeah, there's 2 or 3 Malta players in the box, but I've got to say, how many times do you see that?
So Karabot takes on the responsibility a second time. Has it gone in off the post and the goalkeeper? I think that's the way it found its way into the net. It is definitely 1-1 this time.
Well, he certainly was going to put it in the same position as he did last time. He does get lucky. Richard Wright does dive the right way, hits the post, ricochets off the back of the goalkeeper's head and into the net. But, well, he's unfortunate, you've got to say, Richard Wright, but I do have to say I'm surprised that the kick had to be taken again, because you see it time and time again, players encroaching in the box, but well, a little bit of history, I'm sure, for Malta in the fact that they've scored against England.
I'll take issue with you there, Brian. It's a very big bit of history in that football-crazy part of the world. Whatever happens from now on, it was a strange way in the end for it all to unfold. And also shades of the playoff, where a goal went in off the body of Richard Wright via the frame of a Wembley goal as well.
I think the coach Illich will be absolutely delighted with the fact that they've got back into the game, but their performance has actually earned some merit. I really do believe that they've played extremely well. They've tested England, they've looked very well organised. People will question the fact that whether England should have taken this friendly, but I think that Kevin Keegan will certainly have looked at the first half an hour and say this has been a useful exercise. They've had to work hard against a very disciplined and organised international side.
De Bono, a player in need of attention because of this clash with Alan Shearer.
Caught one accidentally in the face from Alan Shearer. I don't think there was any intent on Shearer's part to damage the big number 5. But the skipper certainly got to rally his team now. 15 minutes towards half-time. Another set-piece opportunity.
Malta down to 10 men momentarily. Up steps Beckham to try and restore England's lead from his trademark position, at least in club football, and from the position in which he scored his 1 international goal. He's closed down by Said, and now he has to get back and try and help England out of a sticky spell here. They've lost the lead.
I've got to say, Martin, Said did superbly well. Not only did he block the free kick from Beckham, he actually chased the ball all of 15-20 yards and has earned his side possession through that.
And now Said finds himself through the centre, but offside.
It's a semblance of a confidence that has brought Malta through that goal. This sort of centre half there, looking to pop up in the centre forward position.
Philip Neville looking for Phillips. Brinkat, Malta's number 10, exuding the confidence for this nation, ranked more than 100 places below England in the FIFA listings. Scholes. Wise. And a bit of over-elaboration from the back there from Buzatil. Headed down by Barmby, looking for Shearer.
Good defending from Said again, the number 2. Read the situation extremely well, because Alan Shearer looked as if he was going to benefit from Nicky Barmby's knocked down, but clearly there De Bono in all sorts of trouble. That was from the collision with Alan Shearer. Blood pouring now from a head wound.
And replacing the unlucky De Bono. is David Camilleri. Well, just look at that scoreline. The top left-hand corner. Difficult circumstances for England in terms of the climate. And the weather, of course, particularly last Saturday, when England was shaping up against the #1 ranked nation in the world. It's very, very different here. And that appalling end to May back in the United Kingdom. Spiteri, sort of slid off his eyebrows, and Beckham can collect and link up with good understanding with Gary Neville. This is Barmby. The deep ball that attracted Phillips, and he did well to keep it alive or make his position count. It seemed momentarily for the benefit of Barmby.
Well, the threat has been down this right-hand side. Because on the left, Nicky Barmby's perhaps roaming inside. But Beckham and Neville on this right-hand side have provided some width and some quality. And again, that just highlights the problem that England do have on the left. Philip Neville there failing to control that ball.
It's a lovely touch by Buttigieg to Camilleri. Busuttil muscled out of it by Campbell. Phillips. That was a lunge from behind by apologetic Vela.
Well, Vela's had to go into the back four now. He's in the substitute. Camilleri is playing in midfield in the role that he'd adopted, but they've got to maintain this organisation that's seen them now at 1-1.
Wise, Keown, England scorer. Beckham, who made it. Can't deliver that time. Charged down by Spiteri. Shearer, Barmby, Phillips, Shearer taking over. Blocked by Buttigieg that time. Neat and tidy on the break. They're trying to stop to move shaping up. They've done that successfully. Scholes to Alan Shearer.
Well, Vela just did enough. He really did just do enough. It was good play. It was good closing down from England initially in that midfield area. Scholes in particular, chasing, harrying Beckham. Then the ball to Shearer, stayed onside. Got the sights, but Vela got across very well indeed. I think just did enough to put Alan Shearer off. And as a chance goes begging.
Well, the Maltese supporters here watching this with a mixture of delight and mystification. There's a lot of them have these England players as their heroes. It's not been a heroic 35 minutes or so for Kevin Keegan's men. Plenty of time to put that right. Barmby. Spiteri very much left-footed, only found Beckham. Ooh, and now if that outside the area, I think it probably was, as Phillips was catapulted into the area.
That's a great initial touch from David Beckham. Good little vision on the edge of the box there, spotting Kevin Phillips. And that is outside the box from Saeed, and very, very fortunate indeed for him. Well, this is the perfect area. I think it's almost too much the perfect area, because there's enough players there to fancy their chances here. The goalkeeper's going to have to get his wall absolutely spot on. You've got the sheer power of Alan Shearer and the creativity of David Beckham.
Wise just going to join the wall there with Keown and Gary Neville as well. Everyone back for Malta. It's Shearer. And it flew away off that line of defenders. Alan Shearer exerting his seniority. Beckham with the corner, really hung up this time. Campbell and Keown was confusing each other, and it's a goal kick.
Well, certainly lack of understanding between the two centre-halves from that particular set piece, because Sol Campbell had spun away, but that's certainly not the sight that too many English fans, players or management will have wanted to see after nearly 40 minutes of this friendly.
Been a rip-roaring rehearsal for Euro 2000 so far. Philip Neville, Barmby, and Phillips round the goalkeeper, but the angle became too acute in the end.
Well, the referee's assistant did look to flag, but it's a wonderful ball from Nicky Barmby. And Kevin Phillips almost looked as if he'd done the right thing there. But Barmby, very similar to one or two passes that he played at Wembley on Wednesday night. But Phillips was always going to find the angle of the conversion of that particular pass difficult.
It's Phillips with the cross. So Barmby's ability to open a defence with a telling pass was very evident at Wembley in those last 20 minutes or so against Ukraine, as Emil Heskey would testify, and Steve McManaman as well.
He certainly looks relaxed enough, doesn't he, Kevin Keegan?
Gary Neville, it's short for Keown, but he got there. Spiteri trying to win his personal battles with David Beckham. Malta are going to make another change, and I think this is something that was in the script. It is the end of a very distinguished career in Maltese international football for Silvio Vella. It began back in December 1988. The previous Footballer of the Year here back in the mid-90s, and he takes his farewell. And they've set this up in an appropriate manner for one of the great servants in this part of the world.
I suppose when you've got 11 substitutes, you can afford to make as many as you want, really, can't you?
And Josef Ilic imparts his goodwill to the departing Vella. Talking to Josef Ilic yesterday, it is really like dealing with non-league players back in Britain. You can maybe improve the performances without improving the results. And he's felt that he's done that. Possible confusion there between Buttigieg and goalkeeper Barry.
I think probably what he has improved upon, unfortunately perhaps not shown in that instance, is the organisation of the side. Because they certainly have proved a difficult side to play against as far as England are concerned.
Well, here's a chance for England to get back in front before half-time. Campbell maybe up a little bit early, still looking for his first goal in senior international football. Famously had one disallowed against Argentina on that fateful night in Saint-Étienne. Campbell, Phillips. Here's Keown. It's a good touch by Phillips, and it's opened up for Alan Shearer here. A good stop by Barry to keep it at 1-1 for Malta.
Well, that certainly was an excellent link-up between the front two. Kevin Phillips showing great determination from this kick from Richard Wright. There you can see Alan Shearer just holding his position. Saeed was the defender covering. Excellent save from the goalkeeper, Ernest Barry, and he had to be, because Shearer had set his sights, he composed himself. Agonisingly wide.
Buttigieg by the near post for Malta. With Beckham who pushed out from taking the corners, he kept onside. Ajus. Here's Spiteri. Well.
An ambitious attempt. He's actually done very well, Spiteri. He's played David Beckham as perhaps as well as anybody I've seen this year. And then he comes up with, well, again, Beckham-esque, wasn't it? All of 40 yards, trying to chip the goalkeeper.
Shearer. And Phillips looking to hit that first time. It knocks down off Camilleri, one of the two first-half substitutes. Spiteri, Keown. Tiuma, the substitute for Vela, trying to attach himself to Shearer. Scholes. Keown. Now Beckham. Keown. There's an auxiliary attacker then. Barmby, good time to line it up. There's a missed kick by Tiuma. Scholes with the back heel. Living a little dangerously there.
There's a wall of red shirts though, isn't there, Martin? I think that's been England's problem. They've lacked a few ideas how to break that wall down.
Karabot, who converted the twice taken penalty, which is made for such a memorable moment in Maltese history, but maybe not in Richard Wright's career. Of course, he's very much at the outset in that respect and very highly regarded. If there was any real doubt that he would be Kevin Keegan's third goalkeeper for this upcoming tournament. Shearer trying to find Phillips. Newcastle-Sunderland combination. They played together before. One of those games in Sunderland, of course, in October against Belgium, when Kevin Keegan felt they didn't work hard enough as a pair when the opposition had the ball. Of course, the opposition haven't had the ball so much today. They've done well enough with their possession to keep it at 1-1 at the moment. Campbell trying to change that. Referee close to bringing this first half to a conclusion. Malta get a free kick. Well, there'll be some red English faces, really, and not just from the sunburn from this first half here. The team in red with plenty to be proud of. And here goes Ajus. Turner's in the middle. Uzatil is there again. Here he is. Karabot coming from the right-hand side. And Malta in possession and very much in the mood. Richard Wright brought down Karabot to get them back into the match with the penalty that Karabot converted at the second attempt. Martin Keown had given England the lead. Before that, there'd been an earlier goal disallowed for the visitors. But it's not the scoreline we expected to give you at half-time here in the Tar Ali Stadium. It is 1-1.
A moment in history for Malta and us here. Didn't expect to say that at half-time. Malta 1, England 1. We'll get the thoughts of Jimmy Hill when we come back on the first 45 minutes of this last competitive match ahead of Euro 2000. Jim's thoughts come next.
dealing with opposition who have played 114 competitive internationals in their history. They joined FIFA in 1959, and they've won 4 of those 114. They're bringing on Chuks Nwoko, who's Nigerian by birth, in place of Kamel Buzutil, who at the age of 36 rarely plays the full match these days, but certainly contributed some neat touches, and there was some neat football from Malta, which was climaxed by the penalty award. Keegan has sent out the same 11. Buttigieg. Here's Karabot. Here. Scholes going through the centre for Shearer's guided chest pass. It didn't quite come off for England. So 3 substitutions by Malta already of their permitted 11 and promised 11. So it might be a second half of some stops and starts. Here's Karabot. Roko waiting by the far post. Scholes. Ajus. There's no offside here. It's Noel Turner with a chance for Malta, and he wanted far too long. Gary Neville got back and spared England further embarrassment. Ryan Marwood alongside me is simply shaking his head.
Well, it's just terribly worrying when we are conceding opportunities like that to an opposition like Malta, and Turner really had far too much room to go into.
And here's Barmby, linking up with Wise, looking to do the same with Phillips. It's hard to find a way through the centre. That was Teuma who stabbed it forward for Malta. Karabot. Here's Nwoko. And with a sort of quickness and discipline type of defending that hasn't always been there for England in this game. Wise. Beckham. Shearer's hopes of a cross there. He thwarted, he just pulled up straight away. It was a bit of a miscue by Beckham. It's not easy to put this into perspective for you. These are circumstances that England won't meet in terms of the weather in the Euro 2000. At least it would be very surprising. Temperatures in the 90s. Scholes. It's a fine stop by Barry. Handball was given. Wouldn't have counted. The chance at the other end, right at the start of this second half, was for Malta and for Noel Turner.
Well, again, in an area where I think the 2 centre-halves have looked very nervous. He makes a run off Gary Neville, and the 2 centre-halves, Keown and Campbell, were appealing for offside. His first touch actually takes him wide, and that gives Gary Neville a chance to recover. After Gary had let him go, Turner just takes it wide. There you can see the block, and that's an important block.
Yes, thankfully for England, Malta have a right-footed, left-sided player. He needed an extra touch, and in taking that, the chance was gone. Shearer staying down. Woko. Philip Neville into the feet of Shearer, but the first touch wasn't good. He's lucky to get it back again. Wise. Okay. Phillips through the centre at the moment. Wise looking to spread the play to Gary Neville. Heskey waiting to get on as England's first change. Maybe with Shearer staying down a moment or two ago, he might be the player going off.
Well, Gary Neville went down in the box under a challenge from Turner. We saw the two being involved in instant moments earlier at the other end of the field. There was Gary Neville just looking to make a run, and he went down pretty easily, but they've got a corner, England.
And Alan Shearer does come off. He'll be disappointed to have started these three warm-up internationals and not scored in any of them. Although in the first two, his partners were on target, Owen and Fowler. Sol Campbell, who has captained England before, gets the armband here. Shearer off in the 6th minute of the second half. On comes Heskey. And a chance to impose himself straight away on Malta at this corner. And it was Martin Keown making a nuisance of himself again.
Well, just looking at Alan Smith, the physiotherapist, and Gary Lewin spending some time with Alan Shearer down on the bench, and whether that was certainly a challenge with the big number 15 tumour some 10-15 minutes ago. This was the challenge here that Alan went down. I think perhaps it was his ankle that may have caused the problem.
And he doesn't look over concerned. His replacement, Heskey, has forced this corner. Floated in by Beckham again. Campbell got his head to it. It then ricocheted kindly for Malta. Scholes wins it back and earns England a free kick, certainly within range. Thinking about maybe just rolling it forward and having a crack himself.
He's given another wholehearted performance, hasn't he, Paul Scholes, in that midfield area. His performance hasn't dropped from the other night against Ukraine. He's been very busy in that area.
David Beckham's getting tired of the questions about his lack of goal-getting for England. He made himself available to the press here yesterday. It's his 31st cap. Annoyed with the ball not going back, and Karabot, I think, was the one singled out there. To the caution. All of which is giving Beckham extra time to just eye up the options here. Capable of going both sides. Goalkeeper in the middle of the goal. And the deflection could have left Ernest Barry stranded. Beckham is saying that the deflection was a handball. And now more grief for England. They're not going to get a penalty, and in fact they're not even going to get a corner because the flag had gone up.
Well, the referee's assistant is flagging. David Beckham is furious because he feels the ball certainly did hit the hand of the number 15 Thuma, but you can see a couple of white shirts there in an offside position as Beckham's shot looked as if it was going to be goal bound, but the referee quite rightly took the decision from the referee's assistant.
Yes, another change imminent for Malta. And bringing on Jeffrey Ketkuti, plays for the Valletta club. part-time footballer, works as a food and beverage manager. And another of the 36-year-olds in the Malta team taken off, John Buttigieg. England have clearly committed themselves to a policy of Alan Shearer +1 in attack, and we have Shearer now out of the game, needing attention for an injury sustained here in Malta, a match that some would say would be meaningless. Politicians wouldn't say that.
Actually looks a knee problem, and maybe well resulted from that jarring, crunching tackle from Thuma.
Heskey. Opportunity for others, for Barmby, but it wouldn't have counted.
Well, Emil Heskey always looking to exploit the corner flag areas. People have criticised him for the fact that he seems to spend a lot of time in these particular areas rather than in the box, but he does create chances for others. And that ball was certainly marginally out of play as Nicky Barmby was driving in at the near post. Really has been a stop-start second half, hasn't it? The referee's been fairly pedantic now.
Very highly rated international official, Stefano Braschi, but two of his decisions, the awarding of the penalty might have been questionable, the retaking of it seemed pedantic, to use Brian's word.
Big number 15 is incredible, Thuma. Some of the challenges he's making at the moment, I'm sure Kevin Keegan will be thinking that he hopes he gets through the second half with no more injuries.
What they are doing is adding to this catalogue of free kicks within the range for David Beckham.
He's really had his sights right so far, has he? Can this be the one?
Well, it's overdue. This one's over the bar. Incidentally, on the political situation, and most of the locals here will say that the vote from the Maltese President, Joseph Mifsud, will go to Germany for their bid, rather than England or South Africa, who have been courting the administrators of the Maltese FA.
Maybe England might be hoping this result might just get them that vote.
That is stretching a point, isn't it? Gareth Southgate you saw, and Robbie Fowler waiting to come on. Scholes. What? That's Wise with a clip. Lovely stop. Goalkeeper looked beaten. All credit to Ernest Barrett.
Well, he had to be on his toes. It was actually Nicky Barmby.
It was Barmby's chip.
Created a great little space once again. Good play from Paul Scholes, but, well, that's wonderful foresight from Nicky Barmby, realising the keeper's going to be off his line. Great execution of the chip, and that is absolutely inches away from a glorious goal.
Martin Keown's coming off for Gareth Southgate. And the other England players having a look round to see it's Phillips for Fowler. Still 1-1, although Nicky Barmby there denied by a truly admirable piece of goalkeeping. Kevin Keegan rings the changes again. And varying the corner routine, Philip Neville floating it in. Well, Robbie Fowler came off at half-time against Ukraine, still short of the sharpness that characterises him at his best, and there's no great surprise in that, given how little football he's played for Liverpool over the past season. It's one of those that could have gone either way. It's gone England's way in the mind of the Italian referee. Malta Now going to involve George Malia, who was born in Brazil and came here as a toddler, adopted. He plays for Floriana. It's his 7th cap. He scored for Malta against Andorra in February, and he replaces Gilbert Adjus, who's been around a long time, played against Rangers in European football as a 16-year-old 10 years ago. Fowler trying to force a corner, and Kuti winning the goal kick off the Liverpool man.
Well, the problem with so many substitutions, Martin, is it does really break up any rhythm that England are trying to get in this second half. And I'm sure that Kevin Keegan, having spoken to the players and had 1 or 2 words at half-time, no doubt strong words, would have hoped that it would have been a better performance.
So it's a fresh pair of legs up front with Malia joining Nwoko as the 2 strikers. Scholes still going strong. He doesn't look as though he's been affected by the heat. Wise working it wide to Gary Neville. England well represented in the centre. Phil Neville, Barnby outside him. Scholes with the flick. Heskey. Fowler doesn't get very far. Malta can break here. Malia. Taken on by Brinkat. Turner had that chance in the second half. Oh, with Richard Wright. All England's 22 nominated players getting action over the past 8 days. Draw with Brazil was seen as creditable enough, especially the first half performance. To beat a team as talented as Ukraine was also a feather in the cap. This is a different story, at least in the first hour. Heskey, Fowler's offside. Well, David Sheepshanks, the Ipswich chairman, there just showing his frustration. But here to support Richard Wright and to make sure that the Ipswich image is a good one, which it certainly has been this week. Thrilling victory over Barnsley, which Wright played a big part. Scholes is in there first. He's still bright and alert, and as long as he is, there's always a chance of an England goal. And you notice, Brian, 1 or 2 of England's opponents have been saying how important Scholes is.
Well, you can see why, Martin. I think that this is England's certainly best chance in this second half. Again, Heskey foraging in wide areas, but that's what Paul Scholes is all about, making late runs into the box. And he's very unfortunate. He's certainly caught it well enough, but he, I think, has been England's best player.
When I say England's opponents, I mean forthcoming opponents in Euro 2000. Where Scholes can, I think, expect some disciplined marking or an attempt at that. He's not an easy man to track down.
Well, it's certainly a difficult case for any side, really, because he makes those runs from midfield, and you know, does a midfield player pick him up? Does a centre-half track him when he comes into those forward areas? But he does have the knack of being in the right place at the right time.
Long throw from Gary Neville. Well, it's put in by Fowler, but free kick given against Sol Campbell.
But he was certainly backing in, and Sol Campbell has been a threat from set pieces. There he was up against Spitari, but once again Paul Scholes in the thick of the action.
Neville. Malta have changed their players, but trying to maintain their defensive discipline. That was a rash challenge by Kuti.
Well, that that might well be their undoing, because they are giving 1 or 2 silly free kicks away. And well, when you've got this fella on the ball, he's got fantastic delivery either from the right or the left. You're looking to witness in round about between the penalty spot and the goalkeeper.
Malta stepping out. There would have been no offside, and Campbell, with his eye on the ball, probably wasn't totally aware of what was happening around him.
Well, there's certainly naivety on behalf of Malta, because they've come out and they've left Sol Campbell in there. He clearly is onside. I don't think he believes he's actually got this time and room. He almost had time to pull the ball down and just slotted home side-footed, but he elected to go for the header.
Problem for Richard Wright, having been involved, indeed culpable in that Malta equaliser. He's not going to get too many chances to make the sort of save that would mark an international debut. Malta have been less of a threat in the second half. Well, this is a significant moment. Maybe not the most significant match, but if Paul Ince comes on, it will be his 50th cap. And that is about to happen. There's some quite detailed instructions from Kevin Keegan. Fowler. Barmby looking for Beckham's pass. Karabot defending in the air. Forward by Camilleri. Karabot.
You just wonder whether Kevin Keegan, now contemplating making further substitutions, that he actually decides to change his system a little bit, because at 4-4-2 they haven't created too many chances, and he tried 3 centre-halves and wing-backs the other night against Ukraine. He may well adopt their system going into the final quarter of this game.
Brinkat, one of those who started the game, still playing. They're getting to be in the minority with all these substitutions. Fowler. Here's Karabot, Malta's penalty kick. Campbell, Barmby. Need to get Heskey moving. Saeed trying to stay with him. Heskey using that impressive power. Fowler. Well, the header was looping, I think, under the bar, but Barry was able to use good footwork to be able to make the save in the end.
Well, once again, good moments from England, and it's come through the shape of Emil Heskey. That's 2 or 3 times he's got into those corner flag areas, providing an opportunity for his Liverpool counterpart, Robbie Fowler.
Barmby. A departure for Dennis Wise, who's played 3/4 of the game. And the sweat is an indication of that. And Paul Scholes as well. Steve McManaman on, and Paul Ince will be very proud. He's certainly voiced some concern over the last year or so that he might not get through the 40s to reach 50. To play 50 times for England is a tremendous achievement, and he has joined that roll of honour. He's only scored in one of those previous 49. 2 goals in an away match against one of the weaker European nations, San Marino, in Graham Taylor's last match in charge. That was a 7-1 victory, and some might have come here thinking England would put on the same sort of show today. It's way short of that. Spiteri. Leah's gone offside ahead of him, so Spiteri sensibly dwelling, and not really biting in. Flag's gone up now against Nwoko. McManaman. He can usually cover the ground, whatever the climate, and he's played in some warm days in his season in Spain. But it's injuries. There's a yellow card for Tiuma.
Well, he's made some incredible challenges to him since he's come on as substitute, and it was all set up, wasn't it? Emil Heskey just looking to allow the ball to go across his body, and that's as crude as you're ever going to get. That is an atrocious tackle from behind.
And that was the fear for the physios like Alan Smith and Gary Lewin. They might have to deal with the aftermath of that type of crude challenge to get the ball. Shearer already off. Certainly with a problem. One would hope it would be a minor one. Gary Neville, 20 forward still for England. If Neville can get in across and England can get back into the lead here. Beckham. Oh, well defended by Spiteri, who's had a good return to the Maltese colours today.
How many times have we said that this afternoon? He actually has done very, very well indeed. Experienced defender.
Oh, and Malta have lost their concentration at the corner. That was Paul Ince, looking to improve his international goal-scoring record.
Well, again, I just think that the merit of getting into wide positions and knocking quality balls into the box, and Paul Ince will be disappointed because it may well come to him late, but I'm sure he would have hoped to have hit the target from there. That's a fairly clear header.
Josef Ilic, the Malta coach, just telling his players to just calm down. Hard for them to do that in this situation where they're, what, 20 minutes away, less than that, of getting one of the results that will certainly resound around this island and further afield as well. They did lose a game last Saturday here to a 90th minute goal against South Africa.
You can bet that the press in Romania, Germany and Portugal will be making a lot of this result as well.
What about the press in England? It's Spiteri looking again from long range as he did in the first half.
There's no need to apologise. Yep, I mean that's what, 2-3 occasions now where he spotted Richard Wright off his line.
Heskey trying to glance it on. Barmby had anticipated a touch that didn't quite come. Josef Ilic knows that his stock in the international coaching world would rise considerably if it does stay this way. Karabot. Woko. That's a touch from Philip Neville to prevent a corner, but that's very slovenly play. And Karabot crosses. Brinker. The defence of the England men who've been out there since the start. Fatigue in these conditions is definitely mitigating circumstances. Barmby. Oh, and another opportunity for Emil Heskey this time.
Well, that really is a great opportunity, but it's come through the drive and the determination of Paul Ince. Just look at the way that he rode that tackle, but that really is the tempo, that's the drive, the passion that England have been looking for at times. Knows when to release the ball. Good first touch from Barmby. That's a great cross. Heskey ought to have converted that. But really, Barmby gets this, the benefit of the left foot, and the benefit of the quality of the cross, but unfortunately the finish isn't to match.
Barmby again. McManaman. Heskey. McManaman. And here's Barmby. Still Barmby, and this time, Emil Heskey. So England are back in front. Heskey has a senior international goal to his name, but Nick Barmby, the plaudits for him, he put it on a plate.
Well, we wondered what sort of performance Nicky Barmby would give today, and he's been as good as anybody in a white England shirt. Well set up by McManaman. He rode the tackle from Spitari, and there he invites Emil Heskey just to side foot the ball into the back of the net, but great play once again from Barmby. He has shown the desire to certainly claim that left wing role for his own, and he certainly hasn't done his chances any harm whatsoever here this afternoon.
Well, the scoreline a little easier on English eyes. 15 minutes to go. And there were some signs that Malta were beginning to allow gaps to open up. Man of the match, 09 009 11 22 33. Let us know your thoughts on that subject. And Nwoko. And incidentally, he had not conceded 2 goals in any game under Kevin Keegan. It would be very odd if it happened against Malta. And it should have happened really with Noel Turner's chance at the start of the second half. Ince. Fowler able to turn. England looking to finish with a flourish here. Fitness is beginning to count in their favour. McManaman. Deep ball from Beckham to Yuma. Knocks it behind for the corner.
Struggling now, Malta. They really are losing their very fine organisation that they've shown for the best part of this game. Perhaps that's come about because of the changes they've made. Perhaps partly because of the tiredness in 1 or 2. Saeed, the player now to be substituted.
Coming on the right of your picture there, Luke Dimek, who lived in England for 10 years and actually played as a schoolboy with Nottingham Forest, Notts County, and had a spell with Lincoln City around the time Darren Huckabee was at Sincil Bank. Also on his Digger Okonkwo, another who's taken out Maltese citizenship, Nigerian by birth. Beckham. Answer one of his specialities, a bit far out to actually bamboozle the goalkeeper with his eyes, his famous look one way and then bend the ball the other. Ernest Barry's played very well in the Malta goal. Southgate's header. Turner. Dimek. Beckham coming deep to collect. He's certainly been given his head by Kevin Keegan over these 3 games, David Beckham, emphasising his importance to what England hope to achieve. Starting a week on Monday in Eindhoven against Portugal. Good run by Gary Neville. Yuma's header, but it comes to Beckham. He saw where Ince was but couldn't find him. No foul, that's Heskey's contact. Referee saw that as accidental on Tuma. McManaman. Ince. And go to the right-hand side to Gary Neville. Fowler. It's a powerful header by a powerful young man. Heskey off the mark this time.
Well, that's certainly the goal would have done him a power of good, but good delivery from Robbie Fowler. Heskey is such a threat. He really is. He's powerful. He's strong. It's very difficult for anybody to defend against him. He disappointed not to have hit the target, but I actually think visibly England's performance has gone up a notch since Paul Ince has come into the side. As a substitute for Dennis Wise, I think he does have that effect on people.
A substitute for David Beckham is Gareth Barry, a second cap for the Aston Villa teenager. I wonder whether that will lead to a change of formation. Gareth Barry, there's the left-footed cross, and look at the difference it makes with that sort of bend on the ball, that type of delivery.
Well, we saw it the other night against Ukraine when Barry came on in harness with Barmby on the left-hand side.
Heskey. Gary Neville firing it across the face of the goal. It's back with Gareth Barry. Oh, unlucky. Nicky Barmby, whose performance merits a goal here. Header in the first half, that super chip in the second half, and that volley then. Ince has a crack.
Well, I think Nicky Barmby's played himself into the starting lineup against Portugal for me. He really has been eventful. He did extremely well coming on as substitute against Ukraine. Just look at the shape he gives himself to hit the target. Super ball from Gareth Barry. Again, the merit to that left foot. Watches it carefully.
What a difference it makes, the angle of the delivery. Within, what, a couple of minutes of coming on, Gareth Barry has put two balls in that have troubled an admittedly tiring Malta.
It's a harder ball to deal with. If you've got a right footer on the left-hand side, cutting inside and crossing, it is perhaps an easier ball to defend against.
McManaman. Philip Neville's on the right-hand side now. Barmby. So what we've got now is Southgate and Campbell. Gary Neville in tandem with brother Philip on the far side. Barry on the left. Heskey and Fowler through the centre. Teuma gets it away from Robbie Fowler. I think the number of substitutions tells you a great deal about the nature of the fixture, but there's no doubt that England had a harrowing first half, but they're coming on strong in the closing minutes here, and I think any criticism has to be tempered by the conditions of this fixture. Players wanting to pick up injuries, not wanting to overload themselves. Malta very much up for it. Big date in their diaries. Off goes Brinkat. On comes Jonathan Holland into midfield wearing number 19. He's, with a name like that, as you can imagine, of English stock. His family came initially from Camden Town.
I'm sure that the English press will be highly critical of this performance in tomorrow's press, but it certainly has thrown up one thing as far as England's concerned. That's been the performance of Nicky Barmby. I think he has absolutely superb game, and I think it's been a problem area for England, certainly coming into these friendlies, and of course going into what is a very important tournament indeed. He may well have solved the problem that Kevin Keegan had.
Gareth Barry had a couple of games for Aston Villa as a left back, which is pretty much where he finds himself at the moment. Heskey. England switching the play as they switch their team around. Fowler. I imagine he'll be going through some pretty sharp training over the week leading up to that Portugal game. England actually fly home after this game. They've got a couple of days off. Report back to their English base at Grissom Abbey on Tuesday and head for Belgium on Thursday. Barry. He is a very calm young man. Ince. Philip Neville. McManaman. Another decent ball from the left-hand side. And my goodness, Robbie Fowler very nearly turned it straight in from an awkward angle. And Gareth Barry is certainly giving Kevin Keegan an alternative.
Well, we've been talking about this, haven't we, about the delivery and the difference in the delivery. That is quality. That really is. There's no way a goalkeeper or defenders find it easy to defend against that. And Robbie Fowler, I've got to say, it's a very bright header for him to just try and knock that to the far post, and Heskey isn't far away.
Well, the sort of control that England would have hoped for early in the game, they're really getting late on. McManaman. Barmby can't get through himself this time. Camilleri. Nwoko. Turner. There's a bit of obstruction. The referee didn't see it clearly, had a look across at his assistant, who was further away and not at a great angle, and there was a little nudge in there, and I suspect there might have been. England got away with it. Barry and Barmby, not names you'd have expected to be hearing at this stage of the season a few months ago in England's cause.
Quite ironic that Nicky Barmby was a late call-up, and you look at the injury to Jason Wilcox, and perhaps Nicky Barmby would have been contemplating this summer on holiday and watching Euro Champs on television, but I think he may well find himself in the starting lineup.
Another substitution for Malta. I think this is their 9th player being introduced from the bench. It's another of their naturalised newcomers, Nenad Veseli, Yugoslavian. Barry. Well, there's no flag here. Robbie Fowler. McManaman, who thought he was going to roll into net. Finally, the flag did go up. Maybe when Steve McManaman made contact with the ball.
I think Robbie Fowler was actually claiming for a penalty, because once again Malta have come out. You can see that they are certainly disorganised. They've made so many changes. I think it's Dimech against Fowler. Thought he won his side a penalty. Again, a flighted delivery from Barmby. He can see Dimech there across Fowler. It's clear-cut penalty from there.
It certainly did. Trying to work out for you from Malta who actually is still on, started the game. Substitutes are plenty involved here. And it's Barry, the goalkeeper, still there. And out comes Richard Wright here. Has he given away another penalty? He has! Well, this is an extraordinary first appearance for Richard Wright. The break by Veseli.
Well, this was the ball that undid England, and they certainly are a little bit 6s and 7s, and once again, from where the referee is standing, that looks a clear-cut penalty. What an incredible debut for Richard Wright.
It's Karabot again, and Wright has saved it. And Nwoko has put it over by some distance, and England's lead is retained just.
Well, much to the relief of this young man, Karabot elects to hit the ball centre of goal. Richard Wright, very fortunate indeed. He's going to his right-hand side as one very proud chairman.
Well, we'll be thumbing the record books to find out when England last conceded 2 penalties in a game. And here's Veseli again. And Wright has saved him. And the follow-up by Dimech. Well, it's a great escape for England here as the band strikes up.
Well, what a mixed afternoon for Richard Wright. Given away 2 penalties, and certainly here the hero in the last minute. Leslie looks absolutely odds-on to score, and once again does the trick with his feet.
This is Mario Muscat, who comes on rather for Ernest Barry. He has played extremely well, Malta's goalkeeper. Certainly no chance with either goal, but some long faces on that English bench, and you can understand it. Just at a time when we were saying, Brian, where England were beginning to dominate proceedings, then 2 breakaways.
Well, again, defensive frailties that unnerved England on Wednesday against Ukraine, and at times, again, I've got to say this afternoon, it's an area where Kevin Keegan has got to work out with his coaching staff now what is going to be his best lineup at the back. It's quite interesting when Richard Wright did make that save, one of the first players to his feet from the bench was David Seaman, applauding the young goalkeeper.
Well, of course, Karabot, a rarity, he's still on the pitch, one of the starters for Malta. Here's Nwoko. He's taken 3 penalties today. Here he is. Now he's going to have a crack to try and come up with the equaliser that was his for the taking. And he put the ball on the spot for the 3rd time.
It was actually quite interesting when he did take the penalty. You could see that Richard Wright had dived to his right-hand side. Karabot was turning away to wheel and salute his goal. He actually thought he'd done enough when he saw the goalkeeper going to his right-hand side.
Karabot comes off, and the set of substitutions, as Malta promised, are complete with Adrian Shantar. All you can say, to use the old theatrical analogy, the worse the rehearsal, it will be all right on the night. And England can only hope that that is the case when they step into truly serious battle a week on Monday. What they have done today is rather more encourage the opponents in Euro 2000 than encourage themselves. Ince. Pluses in the shape of Barmby's performance. A goal for Heskey. Always the first one seems to be the hardest to come by, especially at this level of the game. Gary Neville. Barmby. Short but promising performance again from Gareth Barry.
Well, you're looking for positives, aren't you, out of an afternoon where it hasn't been easy for England. I think Malta have certainly caused more problems in Kevin Keegan's mind more than anything else. Not an awful lot of time now to work on some of the frailties, some of the things that Ukraine have exposed, and here today Malta have exposed.
It's been a strange occasion, really. It's almost like 2, maybe 3 different games with so many different players coming on. Malia can switch the play towards Holland on this near side. He was unmarked for a moment. Camilleri keeping it short. Shot in from Nwoko. Well, it is all over here in Malta. England didn't pay the full penalty for Richard Wright conceding a penalty in each half. Kevin Keegan can manage a smile, but Brian Marwood, in truth, not a huge amount to smile about.
No, there'll be more negatives than pluses. And I think that what Kevin will have to sort out very urgently next week is we need to defend better. Certainly in attack we provided some good moments, but defensively, whenever Malta attacked England, there were frailties, there were deficiencies, and going into a big tournament, there'll be worries for Kevin Keegan.
Martin Keown gave England the lead early, as they might have expected. Emil Heskey scored later to give them a victory. To use one of Kevin Keegan's own favourite phrases on behalf of English fans, wish you well for the adventure ahead. But this match in Malta has really only added to English concerns. A final score, Malta 1, England 2.
Jimmy Hill's thoughts very shortly. Still plenty to come today from Sky Sports. Over on One now, there's Test cricket, the third day of the second Test between England and Zimbabwe. There's live greyhound racing at 8 o'clock, the Derby final, followed at 10:30 by more late-night wrestling. Here on 2, there's Speedway at 6 o'clock, the Swedish Grand Prix, followed at 9 by US Tour Golf, the third day of the Kemper Open. There's NASCAR racing over on Sky Sports 3 from 6, and for Sky Digital viewers, there's live and interactive coverage of the third day of the second Test between England and Zimbabwe, and that's now on Sky Sports Extra, channel 404. So 2-1 England. Just Jimmy Hill's thoughts on the reaction next.